their concerns about the potential expansion of automated speed enforcement. As mentioned at our previous hearing, the Local Government Commission study is not one of advocacy, but rather to document all sides of the policy question. Now, before we begin, I'll ask all members that we are going to hear from each of the testifiers, and then we'll have questions at the end. So I'll ask members to hold their questions to the end. Now, at this time, I'd like to call all of our testifiers to come forward and have your seats, and then I will recognize you each in order to present your testimony. We will also be joined online by Jay Bieber from the National Motorists Association. Very good. Thank you all for attending today. Our first testifiers today are Amy Sturgis and Caitlin Erickson, who are representing the Pennsylvania Municipal League and the Pennsylvania Association of Township Commissioners. Ladies, you're welcome to begin your testimony.
Oh, there we go. Good morning, Chair Hutchinson and members of the commission. I'm Amy Sturgis with the Pennsylvania Municipal League, and Erickson, our governmental affairs manager, is also joining me. We want to thank you for the invitation to testify today, and I've shortened my remarks. You have my written testimony. So the League and the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Commissioners represent over 200 full-service communities across the Commonwealth, serving over 5 million Pennsylvanians. In terms of speed enforcement, our members consistently tell us that speeding on neighborhood roads is the #1 complaint that they hear from throughout their work as elected officials. Therefore, deterring speeding at the local level is a public safety issue, protecting children, pedestrians, and motorists. Our members are looking for effective, efficient tools to answer constituents' complaints and protect public safety. As you are all aware, Pennsylvania is the only state that does not allow the use of radar by local police. Since we've been advocating for new speed timing tools, namely radar, for so long that the speed timing devices that are currently allowed are becoming obsolete. We are learning from our members that they can no longer purchase NRAD or VASCAR equipment, or that the equipment is not supported, and that it does not work in the new police vehicles. So police are being left with a stopwatch, or soon to be left with a stopwatch as their only tool for timing speed on a road. And that's not exactly effective or efficient. As new speed timing technologies have entered the market, our policy position on these devices has evolved to where we now are advocating for modern speed timing devices, radar, LiDAR, speed enforcement camera. With the success of Philadelphia's speed camera enforcement program, we support expansion to all municipalities as an optional tool. The issue in the case of Philadelphia, the issuance of tickets along the corridor have dropped substantially from the first month of warnings to March of 2024. Well, I should say from the time between March of 2023 to June of 2023 to March of 2024, there were only 18,600 violations on average, where when the tickets were first issued in terms of a warning in the very first month of the program, there were over 224,000 warnings issued. This demonstrates a significant change in motorist behavior with the addition of the speed camera. Further, the 2024 Vision Zero report on Philadelphia's program states a significant drop in speeding, 95%. Also, crashes involving pedestrians were cut in half, and fatal and serious crashes dropped by 21%. It's important to point out that speed cameras should be considered one tool in the toolbox. The approval process for speed cameras is extensive, and the cost of equipment and administration is expensive. Therefore, many municipalities will find that this tool is out of reach for them. This means it's equally important to authorize modern technology in general, so that options are available and communities can make the appropriate choice for their officers. Over the last quarter of century for advocating for local use of radar, it's inexplicable that the General Assembly has not acted in favor of local and public safety to slow speeding drivers. This inaction has only made our roads more dangerous and given those with the propensity to speed authorization to do so at little consequence. It's time to give local police access to all the available tools to deter speeding. I'm happy to take any questions, and Caitlin did a lot of research for me for this. So
Thank you, Amy. Caitlin, do you have anything specific to add at this point, or but thank you for attending, and we will take questions in a little bit after we're done with the panelists. So thank you very much. Next, we have Ron Grutza who's representing the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs. Ron, thanks for attending today and look forward to your testimony. You can begin at any time.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Hutchinson and members of the Pennsylvania Local Government Commission. My name is Ron Grutza, and I serve as Senior Director of Government Affairs at the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs. Today, I'm happy to testify on behalf of the association on the expansion of automated speed enforcement systems to highways and streets owned by municipalities. First off, I'd like to thank the Commission for its continued commitment to local governments in the Commonwealth and the partnership with all of the local government associations. It is extremely important to our members, and it is appreciated. Thank you. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to provide this testimony this morning in front of you today to discuss the benefits of allowing local governments to use automated speed devices for community safety. For many decades, our membership, like Amy had pointed out with their associations, has supported and actively lobbied the General Assembly for the authorization for local police officers to enforce speed limits with radar technology. Unfortunately, the General Assembly has only authorized the Pennsylvania State Police with this authority. Interestingly enough, a few years ago, the General Assembly did expand that those tools that the Pennsylvania State Police can use to enforce maximum speed limits with allowing them to use the LiDAR technology, which is also another important tool to enforce speed limits. Local police are only authorized to use very rudimentary tools to enforce speed limits in our community. As Amy had pointed out, officers may use stopwatches, mechanical devices which are approved by PennDOT, such as VASCAR and NRAD. And these timing devices, however, are becoming obsolete. Traffic safety systems, which manufactured VASCAR system, has gone out of business. The NRAD speed timing devices manufactured by YCG Inc. has been discontinued. Now, you may be able to purchase some of these refurbished on the market, but they are not making those anymore. And unfortunately, we're just going to be left with stopwatches to keep our communities safe. So it's, Amy, I think Amy pointed out also that the new police vehicles, some of these old technologies, it's just not compatible with new police vehicles. So we believe that that all these developments of the old technology being obsolete were not able to use new technology. This has become a significant impact on public safety in our community. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's latest crash data from 2022, Pennsylvania ranks once again among the top 5 states in the country for speed-related fatalities. While Pennsylvania's total fatalities have declined, speed-related deaths continue to be a high percentage of fatality. Nationwide, 29% of fatal crashes, 12% of injury crashes, and 8% of property damage only crashes in 2022 were speed-related traffic crashes. Now, that was the national average, but in Pennsylvania, 39% of traffic fatalities were speed-related traffic crashes. So, you know, you're taking the national average, which was 29% for fatal crashes were speed-related, and unfortunately, in Pennsylvania for 2022, that number was 39% of the traffic fatalities. They were speed-related traffic crashes. Pennsylvania's local communities need better tools to keep our citizens safe. We cannot continue down a path that accepts these high levels of speed-related fatalities year after year. PSAB is calling on the General Assembly to allow local police to enforce speed limits with a broad array of speed enforcement devices, such as radar, LiDAR, and automated speed enforcement systems. We also do support the expansion of the red light cameras to as a tool to keep motorists and pedestrians safe as well. We do have members too that use the automated license plate readers as well. That is not for specifically for speed-related enforcement. It's more for just making sure of registration. The vehicles are registered. We don't have the stickers anymore, and for criminal investigations. Speed safety cameras are a proven tool to reduce speeds and speed-related crashes and fatalities. Speed safety cameras, in fact, are a recognized, proven safety countermeasure by the Federal Highway Safety Administration. These safety systems are currently in effect not only in Philadelphia and the work zones in PennDOT and on the Turnpike, but in many other states and countries around the world, and they're proving effective. Fixed unit speed safety cameras can reduce crashes in urban principal arteries up to 54% for all crashes and up to 48% for injury crashes. Why is this important in our communities? Well, in boroughs, well, really anywhere, if a pedestrian is hit by a vehicle and it's traveling at 20 miles an hour, the statistics show that 1 in 10 of the people will die if it's at 20 miles per hour. If it's at 40 miles per hour, 9 in 10 will die. It's very important that we keep our pedestrians safe, and right now we need better tools to do that. Speed safety cameras help with our police officer shortage. I mean, currently, right now, around the country, we're seeing a decline in interest in applications for police officers. In boroughs, of course, we have to use the civil service system, which puts us at a disadvantage. We do have shortages among our departments. It varies in ranges. But current speed enforcement with these technologies, you're using more police officers in order to, if you have somebody doing the timing, another one chasing the vehicle, and pulling them over. I think speed safety cameras can do things a little more efficiently and save on manpower and be able to reduce crashes and keep the community safe. PSAB supports the expansion of these automated speed enforcement systems in all municipalities because they've proven effective. Not only in Philadelphia, of course, but in other areas around the country. We believe these systems, which I believe would be used to supplement rather than replace current speed enforcement programs, they could work well in other communities. The General Assembly could craft legislation which would authorize such speed enforcement systems with many driver protections, such as no points for citations, warnings, mandating warning signs, and even dedicating revenue earmarked from the citations for certain areas, which is being done currently with the red light cameras. Those grants are very important. They're only authorized in Philadelphia currently, the red light cameras, but they do provide grants for areas all over the state. One point I would like to make, though, if legislation were to cap those or to send the revenue somewhere else, I think it's important that municipalities be able to recoup the costs of these systems. It is important that if you're going to send the money somewhere else, at least somewhere there that they be able to recoup the cost of the system. As technology continues to advance in law enforcement, the General Assembly must seriously consider granting local police the most effective tools to protect families from speed-related crashes and fatalities. A lot has been done nationwide and at the national level to reduce speed-related fatalities, yet much more needs to be done. Well, we must get serious about giving local police proper speed enforcement tools, and PSAB looks forward to working with the General Assembly on this worthwhile effort. In closing, thank you once again for the opportunity to present testimony before the Commission on this topic, and when the time comes, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions. Thank you again, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have Brian Rengert, representing Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors. Brian, thanks for coming today. I look forward to your testimony.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for having us. We very much appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Brian Rengert. I am the Director of Government Affairs at the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors. You have all of my testimony, so I just want to highlight a few things that I think are key. Some of those things will certainly echo what both Ron and Amy have also said. But again, on behalf of our 1,400 members from across the state, thank you very much for this opportunity. Safer roads have been a very important topic for our members and something that we have struggled with in trying to figure out how to address. PSATS has long supported providing municipal police with optional and effective tools to keep roadways safe, to reduce traffic accidents and fatalities. As mentioned, local governments often receive a number of complaints about speeding, and with the current laws and current technology, there's not a lot that they can do about it. I think it was also mentioned before, but Pennsylvania ranks 4th highest amongst all states in speeding fatalities on local roads. What is also startling about that statistic is that 95 of these speeding fatalities in Pennsylvania were on local roads, while only 56 fatalities occurred on interstates. So we're seeing a higher number of speeding-related deaths on local roads. Pennsylvania's local police currently have antiquated, clumsy, and often speed enforcement tools that often require officers to walk onto and across congested roads while documenting speeding problems, which creates a safety issue in and of itself. As mentioned before, the two tools that local police are really able to use are NRAD and VASCAR. NRAD must be set up on the side of the road and takes approximately 10 minutes to deploy. In Silver Spring Township, the Silver Spring Township Police Department in Cumberland County relayed to us an instance where one of their devices was hit by a speeding driver while the officer was setting it up. Thankfully, the officer was not injured in the event, but it does highlight the safety concerns that come with this technology. VASCAR and NRAD cannot be set up on roads with curves, and generally motorists can see these units being deployed and rapidly slow down when approaching these devices. VASCAR requires at least 2 officers in 2 separate cars, one to measure the speed and remain stationary, while the second officer serves as the chase car to issue the ticket. As mentioned before, this technology is becoming obsolete. It also is costly and time-consuming. Unlike the state police, Pennsylvania municipalities and police departments are not permitted to use radar or LiDAR. With radar and LiDAR, one officer could both take the speed measurements and stop the driver from exceeding the posted speed limits. Both can be operated on hilly or mountainous terrains and during inclement weather. Authorizing municipal police to use more effective tools and including automated speed enforcement would greatly increase the ability to enforce speed limits and therefore improve safety in our communities. Currently, 30 states and Washington, D.C. provide for automated speed enforcement in some form, either by state law and/or local ordinance. And automated speed enforcement devices can be fixed at one specific location, such as a camera at an intersection, or mobile units can be mounted and moved between enforcement locations. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety released a study in 2015 studying Montgomery County, Maryland, which has used speed cameras since 2007, and found that it led to long-term changes in driver behavior and substantially reduced deaths and injuries. The study also found that cameras succeeded in changing behavior only if drivers knew about them. In fact, drivers slowed down on roads that weren't even eligible for automated speed enforcement, further increasing the safety impact. There's some more information on that study in our testimony, but automated speed enforcement has been proven effective as a traffic enforcement tool, keep highway work crews safe on the turnpike and active work zones on the state highways, as well as select corridors in Philadelphia. Currently, a civil violation notice is mailed to a registered owner if the driver exceeds a speed limit by a specific amount, which in Pennsylvania is 11 miles per hour or more above the speed limit. We support expanding Pennsylvania's program under the current rules, including warning signage, allowance of an 11-mile-hour or above, and the current civil violation process. Criteria should be provided for determining which roads or corridors are best candidates for these cameras. We expect, like the Commonwealth, townships that choose to implement such an option would use vendors to provide these cameras and administrative support for the program. PSATS also supports an option for municipalities without police to use automated speed enforcement for documenting speeding and enforcement problems. An employee could administer and oversee the cameras. For those without a local police, a fair appeals process would need to be included in legislation as it is currently authorized. If authorized, a public information campaign should be offered prior to issuing citations to provide sufficient warnings and to make the public aware of the new safety standards. Finally, every time local speed enforcement is discussed, there are those that will claim that these tools are simply used to raise more revenue. However, nothing could be further from the truth. In Section 3362 of Title 75, I think it's important to point out that that establishes the minimum fines at $35 for violating a limit of 55 miles per hour or less, and $42.50 for exceeding the posted speed limit of 65 miles per hour or less. This means that municipalities receive about $17.50 per ticket, which that amount does not even cover the cost of an officer to enforce the speed limit. So with that, thank you very much for the opportunity to testify. Traffic safety is an incredibly important issue for our members. We would view this as a tool in the toolbox to help keep our roads and residents safer.
Thank you very much. Finally, our final testifier today is Jay Bieber, representing the National Motorists Association. Mr. Bieber, you're online, and we are look forward to hearing your testimony this morning. You're welcome to begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much. I just want to make sure you can hear me okay, since I'm remote.
Definitely. Sounds good.
Thank you so much. So Chair Hutchinson, members of the commission, my name is Jay Bieber. I am the Executive Director of the National Motorists Association. On behalf of the over 9 million licensed drivers in Pennsylvania, I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify on automated ticketing programs in Pennsylvania and across the US. Just a little bit of background. Founded in 1982, the NMA is a membership-based advocacy group dedicated to protecting motorist rights and promoting traffic safety through sound engineering, not arbitrary enforcement. We support laws that fairly distinguish between responsible behavior and truly unsafe driving. Now, while many witnesses will likely praise automated enforcement, the NMA offers a caution. These programs often fail to improve safety and instead exploit safe drivers for revenue. Automated cameras tend to punish minor technical violations, errors that proper engineering would prevent, and issue tickets for conduct that live officers using judgment and discretion would not cite for. And we do not believe that Pennsylvania's current automated enforcement programs have proven worthy of expansion. Excuse me, and I will address each program separately. The speed camera programs. Before enforcing speed limits, automated or otherwise, those limits must be properly and fairly set. National traffic engineering standards call for speed limits to reflect the 85th percentile speed, the speed at or which below which 85% of free-flowing drivers naturally travel. This method has been shown to reduce crash risk, promote uniform traffic flow, and maintain public trust in traffic laws. In contrast, arbitrarily lowering speed limits increases violations without improving safety. When limits are set too low, automated enforcement becomes a revenue trap rather than a safety tool. Philadelphia's speed camera program on Roosevelt Boulevard is a prime example of this. So specifically with regard to the Roosevelt program, according to the 2024 annual report, over 1 million tickets costing residents more than $111 million have been issued since June 2020 with no reduction in fatalities or serious injuries. In fact, total fatalities and serious injuries have increased. Pedestrian and cyclist deaths have fluctuated but not improved significantly. Speed data also show mixed results. Average speeds at monitored locations change by only about 2 miles per hour or less at most sites. High-speed outliers at the 80 to 100 mile per hour plus folks remain common. While cameras have curbed extreme speeding slightly, their effect on truly dangerous driving is limited. Yet the Philadelphia Parking Authority claims the cameras have reduced speeding by 93%. No clear data supports this claim. It appears based on comparing current ticket counts to the number of warning notices sent during the program's initial months, a misleading comparison. Warning notices require no officer review, while citations do. Had those early warnings been screened like tickets, their numbers would have been much lower. This 93% figure distorts the program's true impact. But more importantly, 91% of tickets go to drivers traveling just 11 to 19 miles per hour over the limit. The average cited speed is about 55 miles per hour, meaning most tickets target drivers exceeding Roosevelt Boulevard's 40 to 45 mile per hour limits by only 11 to 12 miles per hour. Given the road's wide, straight design, those limits are unrealistically low. Most drivers aren't scofflaws. They're simply driving at reasonable speeds the road invites. The city built a road that encourages 50 plus mile per hour travel, then underposted the speed limit and installed cameras to trap drivers. This is textbook speed trap. Before expanding automated enforcement, Pennsylvania should require speed limits to be set within 5 miles per hour of the 85th percentile speed following national standards. Otherwise, these programs will continue to punish safe drivers for profit. Better solutions exist. In Riverside, California, speed feedback signs outperform cameras, reducing speeds more effectively and at lower costs. Tests in Tennessee and Maine found driver feedback signs cut average speeds by up to 23% and slashed high speed violations by up to 62%, far better than Philadelphia's camera program and without any of the equity problems caused by punitive ticketing. With regard to the work zone cameras, while Pennsylvania's work zone camera program avoids some of the worst abuses seen elsewhere, the answer to work zone speeding lies in engineering and live enforcement, not cameras. PennDOT claims cameras have reduced speeds and crashes, but its own annual work zone speed enforcement reports show little to no consistent benefits. Our review of speed data from March 2020 to December 22 found virtually no change in the share of drivers exceeding the limit or those speeding by 11 or more miles per hour, which is PennDOT's threshold for excessive speed. We also analyzed speed data year over year, 2020 versus 2021, 2021 versus 2022, and 2020 versus 2022, and found no statistically significant difference in speeds. Variation appeared random and not the result of camera enforcement. And while crash counts dropped in 2020 and 2021, this coincided with pandemic-related reductions in traffic and construction activity. In fact, crashes rose again in 2021 as traffic returned. The slight decline in 2022 crashes, given the stable speed data that we found, is unlikely to be attributable to the cameras. The report also omits injury and fatality data, likely because such incidents in work zones are rare and usually involve construction activity or equipment, not speeding drivers. National studies confirm that worker fatalities are most often caused by work vehicles, not passing motorists. From March 2020 through December 2022, Pennsylvania issued over 1 million work zone tickets. Interestingly, 84% were warning notices, and most recipients didn't reoffend. In contrast, among those who received actual citations, nearly 50% went on to receive additional tickets. So ironically, this suggests that warnings actually work better than fines at changing driver behavior. Rather than relying on camera, Pennsylvania should expand the use of speed feedback signs, improve work zone designs to encourage natural slowing, and use live enforcement for the most dangerous offenders. This approach better targets true risks without mass ticketing of safe drivers. With regard to red light camera programs, just as speed cameras punish technical violations rather than improve safety, red light cameras also target minor mistakes instead of genuine dangers. In too many jurisdictions, these programs have become traps that exploit common driver behavior. Red light violations generally fall into three types. There's the straight through violations, the rolling right turns, and the left turn violations. Each has different causes and risk levels. Most tickets target early into red violations, where the driver enters the intersection within a second or two after red. Studies show that over 90% of violations fall into this category, yet these rarely cause crashes because cross traffic hasn't entered the intersection. These tickets often result from yellow lights being set too short, trapping drivers in what's called the dilemma zone, where they can't stop safely or clear before red. National standards recommend yellow intervals calculated using the kinematic equation to eliminate the dilemma zone. Yet many jurisdictions cut corners, setting yellows too short, and worse, cameras often ticket drivers for violations as minor as a fraction of a second after red, penalizing unavoidable timing errors, not dangerous acts. All drivers face an indecision zone when the light turns yellow, where it's unclear whether to stop or go. Even cautious drivers sometimes misjudge and enter on the early red by tenths of a second. These technical violations, while ticketed by cameras, almost never pose safety risks. More troubling, many programs focus on ticketing slow rolling right turns, which account for up to 98% of tickets in some cities, despite posing minimal danger. Nationally, right on red crashes make up less than 0.05% of 1% of all crashes and rarely result in injuries. Yet millions of tickets are issued for these harmless technical violations. Left turn violations also stem from engineering shortcomings. Drivers waiting to turn left often follow through just after the light changes, behavior that rarely causes crashes but is easy to catch with cameras. In many places, yellow lights for left turns are set even shorter than through lanes, worsening the problem. Proper timing using the extended kinematic equation would reduce these violations. Critically, serious red light running crashes, those causing injuries and deaths, nearly always caused by drivers entering 5 seconds or more into the red. These tend to involve impaired, distracted, or fatigued drivers, not motorists trying to beat the light by a fraction of a second. Cameras do little to stop these severe offenders, but excel at mass ticketing for minor technicalities. If Pennsylvania wants to reduce serious red light crashes, the solution lies in engineering. Properly timed yellow lights with built-in tolerance, dilemma zone protection technology, and intersection design improvements to improve visibility and conspicuity. Red light camera programs, when focused on revenue and technicalities, do little to improve safety and much to erode the public's trust. So our recommendations. Taken together, Pennsylvania's experience with automated ticketing shows a clear pattern. When enforcement trumps engineering, the result is mass ticketing of safe drivers, public resentment, and minimal safety gains. Unlike live officers who apply judgment and discretion, cameras operate with zero tolerance, penalizing safe drivers for minor violations even when conditions are safe. This shifts focus away from real crash causes, impairment, distraction, and aggression. Pennsylvania has an opportunity to chart a better path. Rather than expanding automated enforcement, the state should set speed limits based on the 85th percentile speed, use road designs that self-enforce safe speeds, optimize signal timing to reduce red light violations, and target real crash causes like impairment and distraction. Where automated enforcement is used, programs must be a last resort after engineering solutions are tried. They must target outliers, not massive ticketing of reasonable drivers. They should avoid profit motives. Revenues should not exceed program costs, and if they do, those revenues should not be kept by the jurisdiction running the program. They should issue warnings for minor violations and first-time offenders, just like the work zone cameras do. And they should ensure that transparent data reporting is fair, and they should ensure that there's fair adjudication of the tickets. Specifically, with red light programs, they should focus on through violations, not harmless right turns. Yellow lights must be set with an added tolerance, not at minimums, and speed camera programs should only operate where limits are properly set and self-enforcing. In short, Pennsylvania can improve traffic safety without relying on punitive camera programs that punish safe drivers and breed public distrust. We urge you to consider engineering-focused solutions first before expanding the automated enforcement programs within the state. I do want to address just a couple of things in addition to my prepared notes, which is there has been some questions about some of the programs and the efficacy of these programs in other places. Montgomery County was mentioned. There were studies that were done that showed that the crashes on those locations went down the same whether there were cameras at the locations or not in Montgomery County. When you hear stories about, how some locations had a 50-some-odd% reduction in fatalities, these are more statistical things, and they are not an actual before and after study. When you look at the data specifically from the Pennsylvania program, it clearly shows that there was no reduction in the serious injuries or the fatalities, which is unfortunate because I think everybody would have hoped that there would have been a reduction, but there wasn't. And that is unfortunate because the vast majority of these programs ticket drivers who are on the low end of the safety problem and tend not to have very much effect on the folks that are the real danger on the road, the real dangerous drivers. One more final point before I finish, which is this question of what's being referred to as speed-related fatalities or crashes. Understand that a speed-related crash is not necessarily somebody who is exceeding the speed limit. The number of people who exceed the speed limit and result in a crash is actually fairly low when you look at those numbers. The speed-related simply means that it was determined that the person was going too fast for conditions, not necessarily exceeding the speed limit. Speed cameras only target people who are exceeding the speed limit by some set amount, but not necessarily going after a driver who is driving at an unsafe speed for the conditions present, which is what a live police officer does. So that wraps up my comments here, excuse me, and I'm happy to answer any questions as they arise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bieber. Now I will open the floor to questions from the members. Senator Dush.
Thank you to all the panelists. I'm a Northwestern and Florida State certified traffic accident investigator, and also went through with the Air Force traffic management, which goes into design and construction. There are a number of interesting points being raised. I do agree with the concerns about the difference in the timing of the things like yellow lights and that sort of thing. Also got a very major concern about the progressively greater surveillance state. I have been an advocate for the local municipal police officers being able to have radar and LiDAR. One of the things that I have, these speed cameras, are they operating with radar? They're not operating with LiDAR, are they?
I believe there are depends on the company. I believe there are both out there, but I am familiar. The one company I'm most familiar with, I believe, operates with LiDAR. Okay.
I never had the opportunity to operate LiDAR, but I have had the opportunity to use radar. And the ability to specifically target a moving vehicle that the officer identifies as exceeding the speed limit or driving too fast for conditions, that sort of thing. I would like to see all of our police units in the Commonwealth going that route. Because it diminishes the opportunity for somebody to fight it in court whenever, because you are targeting a specific vehicle. I have had the opportunity to see it in operation, but I've not had the opportunity to use it, as I said. And it was brought up about judgment and discretion. The Montgomery County, Maryland case, those cameras, number one, they don't always have, from personal experience, I know they don't always have the signage out there indicating that, and they're mobile units. They should have signage. If we're going to have that kind of stuff, I don't mind so much the mobile units where you take them out, you put up a sign, you got targeted enforcement, that kind of thing. But uh, the having fixed positions at every intersection in a municipality or along the highway systems, what concerns me in the greater scope of things is there are proposals out there to limit people's travel to within, 15 or 30 minutes from their home. And uh, having a surveillance state out there where cameras are all over the place, that increases the ability for government to become more tyrannical and actually enforce that kind of stuff. But when people know that law enforcement is out there, they do change their behavior, and giving the local municipal police officers the ability to have, like I said, radar and LiDAR, it does help. So we've been given a lot of good information here, and again, I want to go back. The driving too fast for conditions is the main thing that we've got to be concerned with. That's when we have municipalities where you've got, in certain areas within a municipality where you've had a significant number of crashes or a significant or pedestrian involved incidents, that sort of thing. These local leaders have a responsibility to try and reduce the injuries to their people, and I want to give them the tools to do it. I just want to make sure that we're balancing everything, and I appreciate everybody's testimony here. And I really do want to find out about those traffic cameras that are using LiDAR, because I don't know how if you've got multiple lanes, how they would shift to an individual vehicle. An officer I know can do that, but I don't know how that equipment would be able to.
I'll see if I can get you some more information on that. A couple, if I can, a couple of
Thank you.
comments. I don't think anybody up here would disagree that or would say that we are looking for, a speed enforcement camera on every street corner. I think there should be, appropriate, criteria that lay out potentially where they're necessary. And there should be a process for that. And I would agree on signage. That would be signage and education. Everything we have seen and read has said that is incredibly important. And again, our goal is not to write tickets. Our goal is to slow people down and create safe roads. So, I mean, we would certainly be very open to signage, and education, to a warning period, and certainly think that those things should be included in legislation, because education does work. When folks know it, they slow down. That seems to be what the data says. I would ask, and I think Ron mentioned this, that, if portions of the fees are going to other places, that municipalities at least keep enough of the money to be able to cover those signages, cover the costs of the program. And then, I want to point out that, there is the ability, and currently in Pennsylvania, those tickets are reviewed by a live person. Obviously, it's not the same as a live person being out there, but certainly we could look at, what that process looks like to add more human oversight. And then I believe, Senator Dush, you also mentioned the privacy side of things. Would definitely recommend, if legislation is crafted, or as you guys are looking at this report, to build in privacy concerns. How long is data kept for? What type of system does it have to be kept on? Certainly think that those are concerns that the legislature should look at.
Well, we found out that sometimes those types of guidances aren't followed. Data ends up staying with people. You mentioned something, Brian, that Mr. Bieber brought up. When it comes to the review of the data, and I saw your faces with the Philadelphia thing, was there an actual review of the warning? That almost 250,000 warnings, when it came to the analysis of that, whether or not, I do want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. Do any of you know whether or not
I do not have any information on that, on how Philadelphia did their warnings. I believe they testified at the previous hearing, so that may be something we follow up on.
I just saw that the amount of citations that were issued went precipitously down.
Senator, if I may, just to kind of be a little bit more clear on my comments on that, if you actually look at the data in the charts that are in these reports, you'll see that in the 2 months where there are warnings, they're fairly consistent over those 2 months, and then in the very next month when they start issuing the actual tickets, it drops precipitously. It doesn't make logical sense that all of a sudden drivers would, within that 2-month period, it would drop significantly, but then not drop significantly like every month after that. So there's a huge difference between the warning period and the actual ticketing that occurs month after month after month. And that's why, and we have seen this in other programs, we don't have any specific data for it, but we do know that a live police officer has to review the ticket when it's an actual ticket, whereas that same review process is likely not necessary just to issue the warning. And that's probably where the huge discrepancy is. Not saying that there hasn't been a drop in the number of tickets. I'm just saying that huge drop from the first 2 months to everything else, it just doesn't make logical sense that that could be a change in behavior over that period of time.
And Caitlin, do you have anything on that?
Our testimony did come from the information that Philadelphia gave. Our testimony came from the information Philadelphia gave when they testified earlier, and in the 2 reports that they.
Okay, I just think
But-
we need to take a look at that. And again, like I said, I want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples here. Thank you, Chairman.
Further questions, Senator Dash? Representative Miller?
Thank you to each of you for your testimony. I appreciate it. I know that our municipalities, they want the people in their communities to be safe and doing the best that they can. I have an overarching question I'd like for each of you to opine on, if you could. And that is, would we even be here, do you think, if we had the ability to do radar? If our local municipalities had the ability to do radar, would we really effectively be here on this question?
Chairman Miller, thank you for the question. I think we probably would be here because of the outpacing of the technology. The technology is just, the state police has had the ability to use radar since 1961. That technology has been around since then. But we've had LiDAR. We now have the automated cameras. So technology is just outpacing really what the General Assembly has allowed for local police to use to enforce speed limits. So I think probably we would still be here.
I would agree with Ron on that. I think technology has moved so fast and developed so quickly. And municipalities have also been so slow to get radar and LiDAR that we've almost jumped over them, that we are, now moving to newer technologies and even the technology that we're talking about today will probably be, obsolete in another 10 or 15 years as well. So, yes, I do think we would still be having this conversation. It would be nice if we were having it while we had radar and LiDAR already, but unfortunately that's not the case.
I agree with my colleagues. We would definitely be discussing this because of how quickly technology changes. We might be looking at it, the camera issue, more from the perspective of aside from its use in Philadelphia, where would it be best used parts of the Commonwealth? But I still think we would be talking about its use and its options.
Mr. Bieber?
Yeah, thank you. You know what? We haven't really taken a position on the issue of radar for police officers in Pennsylvania. Our only concern about that is whether a municipality might set up a speed trap using that. But I mean, that's more a question of how they're used. And actually, that really is our concern about the automated enforcement. It's more about how it's being used as opposed to the fact that it exists or that it is a technology that can be used. I think we would have a lot less problem with it if it were really just targeting the outliers. And we do find that in some municipalities with red light cameras, they're issuing, 10 tickets a month at their locations. That means they're really ticketing the outliers and they're not ticketing for what we might call Mickey Mouse violations. So I do think you'd probably still be having this conversation, but understand that, there's a lot of places that use radar with police officers. They still want speed cameras, and present company accepted, of course. You can't make money too much off of radar guns, but you can off of automated enforcement.
A question for each of you, if you would like. Why do you believe we can't get radar done? What is the reason that we can't get radar done?
As I said in my testimony, it's inexplicable. I don't think I can't, after 25 plus years of working on this, I cannot figure out what is stopping it. Or maybe the bar, the bar changes as we maybe make a little bit of progress on our advocacy, and it changes. What is necessary is in order to get it over. But it does not make sense at this point.
Yeah, I'm without any answer as to why it continues to fail here. All of the legislative proposals that we've been a part of have had significant driver protections in them, with no points and mandatory signage that radar is being used in the municipality, warnings, a phase-in. We've done practically everything that we can, and of course, capping the revenue at a certain amount. Certainly we're not making money from speed enforcement. In fact, we're losing money. When you factor in all the labor costs and even overtime, when you're going to court. So yeah, it is really inexplicable as to why we're not able to get that legislation passed.
Yeah, I will echo what Ron and Amy said. And Chairman, you were on a panel at our PSATS conference earlier last week, and radar came up as a topic. And one of the follow-up questions was, why hasn't it gotten done? And I think even from the answers of legislators, there wasn't really a full answer of, why have we talked about this for so long and it not gotten across the finish line? Although there were differing views on the issue, it was not, a clear answer either.
Mr. Bieber, any comments?
Well, I'm not really privy to what has occurred over the last 25 years in Pennsylvania, even though I am originally from New Jersey. But I would say that if there is a reason floating out there, it could be a concern similar to the concerns that people have about automated enforcement in terms of how it could potentially be abused. Not saying that it would be. And again, our position is we prefer live police officers to be enforcing the law as opposed to cameras. So, but I think, like with the automated enforcement, if there were legislation with real strong protections built in, again, not going after the minor violations, going after the real outliers, I don't think you would have as much problem with it. So, but I don't know what the prior legislation looked like, so I can't speak to the specifics of it.
Okay, thank you, each of you. I would just offer that I agree with your assessment that we probably would be here talking about this even if we had radar, but in my estimation, it would be a very different conversation. And as I said at the start, is my opinion, having been a former township supervisor, that and knowing many supervisors, they just want the safety of their community members. They're not, and even the $17.50 is not going to be any money to speak of. So that concern has been addressed. Ron, what you had mentioned about the different things, the phase-ins and the warnings and the this and that, I think most municipal officials would be supportive of that, to offer this level of protection for the people. And so, for my part, I don't know, maybe we just have to, as someone said earlier, we just have to jump over the whole thing and go right to this. I wouldn't be supportive of that. I think we should go to the radar scenario or the technology that best suits the needs. And so with that, I want to thank all of you for your testimony and your representation of your constituency, and I appreciate the opportunity to have this hearing.
Senator Dush.
Yeah, just one more question. Any of you, are you aware of, with the traffic light cameras, that kind of thing? Is there an analytic software or something that actually can determine whether you have things like a person with a shortened red light or yellow light, or getting caught trying to make a right on red, that kind of thing, maybe rolling, not coming to a complete stop ahead of time? Do any of the companies that have that, do they have analytic software that narrows it down? I mean, they'll flag it, but is there any company that has analytics to go along with it?
I'm not familiar enough with the technology that is out there to be able to provide an answer. But there very well might be, but I just don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the exact question is, but if you're asking, do they have like data on how much that is, or what's this? I'm very familiar with these systems and how they work, so I want to answer your question as accurate as I can.
Yeah, do
Can
they
you
just flag
clarify?
it and then the officer reviews it? Is that
Yeah,
basically
well,
how it happens?
yeah, so what happened? Well, first of all, it's video. So if you have video, then they actually see the person, and the car rolls up to the intersection, doesn't quite stop, and makes the turn. And the police officer, here's the thing about police officer review, and I want to be really clear about this, because I've sat there and I've watched it happen, and I'm very familiar with it. The review is cursory. In other words, it's not the same as if a police officer were out in the street and saw somebody and be like, yeah, is it worth pulling somebody over for that? It's a really minor violation, not just because they don't have the time or they can't chase them down, but they're like, it's sort of a really minor violation. And police officers, I think, as you probably know, don't go after every little minor violation. They go after the outliers. And so, but what happens with automated enforcement, they just look at the video and they say, did the wheel stop turning? Did the person completely stop? No, they didn't. Click the mouse. It's a violation. Send the ticket. That's how it works.
Yeah, it's too easy to just do that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They'll spend all day just sitting clicking a mouse, basically.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple questions. So, Mr. Renger, on behalf of the townships, said he mentioned a support for an option for municipalities without police to have automated speed enforcement. Was wondering if the other associations think the same way. I'll tell you up front that I don't. I think you probably should have police review of these. And I know that people are going to say, oh, they're just warnings, et cetera, or low cost. But I want to hear what the associations think on behalf of their members.
Well, on behalf of the league and the township commissioners, all of our members have full-time police departments. So we don't have policy on extending to departments with no, or communities that don't have departments.
But would you allow other employees of your municipalities to do the background work on these automated speed enforcement?
I think it would be important for officers to be reviewing the potential violation.
Thank you.
Chairman, that's a really good question. And it's something that we haven't taken a look at, but just off the cuff, certainly we would want to give our members as much decision-making as possible at the local level. Currently out of 955, I think we have perhaps maybe maybe 80% of those that either have their own police department, contract with a neighboring police department, or have a regional police department. So we have a large majority of them that are covered on them. But for the ones that don't, I think we'd be supportive of even giving them just that option. Or maybe there is a way of working into the legislation, if there is legislation, to have a neighboring police department just contract for that service.
And if I may, that is something that does happen around the country. There are some places that they do contract with a neighboring police department or an overriding police department. Like, for example, the sheriff's department in Sacramento, California runs the county and cities program. So so it is possible to have another police entity take a look at it as well.
I guess my point is I think it should be police, whether it's contracted out police, and if you even have a force, that the police are the ones who should be looking at that. So that's the point I was, or my bias in this, I guess, because we are enforcing a law, and we don't think that's, or at least I don't think that's just a clerical transaction. Also, it's been mentioned here about speed feedback signs. Wonder if you want to comment about the usage of those. I know some of your members use those, maybe sporadic, but they do use them. It was pointed out that these are a sort of a low-cost option to increase safety. Wanted to hear any feedback about usage of that. Maybe we should have more of that and not have to go the full step of issuing citations. So, any comments from the associations on that?
Yeah, you see them, they're kind of ubiquitous in all of our communities, probably because we can't use radar, and we're limited in a lot of the speed enforcement technology. It'd be great if we had a grant program for them, or maybe some other monies could be put for them. But they measure the speed. You can't cite from them, but perhaps it can help to slow down motorists if they know what their speed is. The ones that I've seen that are pretty effective are the ones that when you do trip over the speed limit, it flashes blue and red. So, yeah. So our members do use them.
I mean, I think it's certainly a tool in the toolbox, and our members do use them. I don't have any data on how many or where or anything along those lines, but I think it's a tool. Obviously, they're being used now, and we still have a speeding problem, so it's not the only answer.
Again, it's a tool. It's a reminder to motorists that they're perhaps speeding, but I don't know that it's the answer to our public safety.
I guess as a comment, again, personal comment, that I think our goal should be safety, and the goal should not be writing tickets or sending warnings or any of that. That's when motorists start thinking this is a revenue raiser, whether it's the money is kept locally, whether it goes to the state, whether even I think about, and it's been mentioned, maybe the municipality should keep revenues to pay for the system itself, but that breeds, well, then we're going to have, this is an expensive machine, so we're going to buy a bunch of these machines, and we're just going to keep at it until we get them paid for. It's a never-ending cycle. It'd be an incentive to buy more and more of these and put them everywhere. And I don't, that turns it into the surveillance society, even in a bigger scale. Finally, I have one other question, sort of building on what Representative Miller said about would we be having this conversation if local municipalities could use radar and LiDAR. And several of you talked about we've moved on to the next technology, and then I start thinking about what's the end game for that technology? Is it just about more tickets? I do think when you have police presence with radar LiDAR, I think that effectively gets people to think about their driving habits. I don't think having these autonomous machines spread everywhere necessarily does that. Again, it just seems to me a ticketing regime and a surveillance regime that that's the end of technology. The end of technology is having these everywhere, every intersection, every street. And I don't think that that's a good thing. So I have, I think the Senate on multiple occasions has passed one iteration or another of LiDAR, radar usage for local municipalities, and I've voted for that. But I think skipping to the next thing just because the next thing exists is not necessarily a good decision-making process. So without any further questions from the members, I want to thank all of our panelists today. Appreciate your input. Our commission is still gathering data, and we've had the 2 hearings already, and we look forward to continue working with you as we prepare our mandated final report on this subject area. So thank you all for your testimony and insights today. We appreciate it. It's great to work with you all, and at this time, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.